Right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to another BCCC webinar, Brazil-Canada Trade Updates, 1 year into the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm Carolina Albernaz, CEO at the Brazil-Canada Chamber of Commerce, and I'm here today with Arnon Melo, President at MELLOHAWK Logistics, to talk about a subject we both love, Brazil-Canada trade and global supply chain. If you have any questions or comments during the conversation, please make sure that you type them on the Q&A box, and I'll incorporate your comments and questions into our conversation. So first, for those who are not familiar with the BCCC, for 47 years, we've been building relationships between Brazil and Canada, strengthening the bilateral relationship in investment, trade, best practices, and mutual growth and prosperity. Our relationships are private and public, featuring managing directors and decision makers of small, large, and very large companies and institutions. Our volunteer board of directors has expertise, knowledge, and connections that can only be found by being active players of the Brazil-Canada market. We're a membership-based association, and we support our members through information networking. So if you want to learn more on how the BCC can help your company, please let me know, and please feel free to reach out anytime. So over the last 3 decades, companies have established wide-ranging global supply chains that have been taking advantage of steadily improving scale economies in global logistics. Efficient and reliable ocean and air cargo have linked low-cost manufacturing hubs across Asia with major markets in the Americas and Europe. Much of this global sourcing was driven by the cost savings in production that were so dramatic that it more than cover expenses associated with moving products across vast distances to markets, or the extra cost of carrying inventory in long pipelines. Yet, the disruption in logistics networks caused by the COVID pandemic has added layers of stress and challenges for supply chain professionals all over the world. For the past 14 months, we've been hearing about production disruption, route disruption, congestions, lack of containers, lack of space, increased costs, and so on and on. Roadblocks are various, and we're here today with Arnon Melo to talk a little bit about the long-term impact of the pandemic and global supply chain and alternative solutions available in the market. So Arnon, welcome. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Carolina, so much for this invitation. It's so good to be back with you online.
I know, it's been a year, I think, since our last
know. Oh my God.
So why don't we start by you giving us a little bit of an update and sharing some latest news on supply chain in Canada and Brazil and the world. What's going on out there?
Oh my God. There's so much going on. We thought that last year was a year of waiting for crisis and crisis and crisis, and then everybody kind of overcame that and said, oh my God, we survived last year, right? With all the cancellations of flights, as you guys know, many routes in the world continue to be canceled, and then problems with containers in China. And things got better towards the end of last year, and we were expecting this year to start much easier, let's say, despite the cancellation of Air Canada's flights to Brazil, of course, which has been a big issue. And things are not going so well. I'm a positive guy, but there's a lot of disruption worldwide right now. Lack of containers in China, so much so that we'll start with that first, that containers are being sent to China empty. Normally, most people know containers travel the world, right? They take cargo from China, let's say, they go to Europe, to Canada, they do a big circle, and then, taking product, raw materials back to China or whatever market. These raw materials are not going. So the containers need to reach China empty. And there's a cost for that, of course, right? So sending containers empty to whatever market. And that is causing a huge impact in the economy now, where we see containers out of China costing $8,000 to $9,000. If you want your product right now to leave China and come to North America or go to Brazil, whatever it has to go, steamship lines are telling you, okay, we'll put you at the front of the line, whatever that means, $8,000 to $9,000 US. So you can imagine what that's going to cost, end up costing for a product that not only you're transporting the product, then you're paying $9,000 to transport that product to whatever market. That commodity is going to arrive here or in North America much more expensive than was originally planned. So that's not good. It's not good at all. And we hope that vaccination worldwide will cease these disruptions, because then ships can dock And as you know, if one crew member has COVID on the ship cannot dock. It stays in rotation. Like it's just a nightmare right now. And of course, air shipments have not really gone back to normal yet. Air Canada had 3 flights. First of all, they cancel their passengers to Brazil. Of course, they're not taking any passengers. It's strictly cargo. Then we had 3 flights a week, and then they canceled the Wednesday flight. So now we have Fridays and Sundays out of Brazil, which is a huge problem because most people don't know is that on the weekends you cannot deliver cargo to an airport in Brazil. The delivery and check-in of cargo with an airline has to be done during the week because of customs, because of whatever. So now I have Fridays and Sundays. So literally I only have Fridays to book cargo, deliver, and then fly the goods here. So when we talk specifically with Brazil, that's a concern because of Air Canada. And then worldwide, the routes have not been reinstated. A lot of destinations, they're half and half, very little capacity. So, and not to mention the price of air freight continue to triple and double and triple. China, air freight from China has come down a little bit, but still $9 a kilo, $10 a kilo, which is twice what it was in 2019.
Wow. So we talked about like definitely cost is a big issue because I remember back in my days, I mean, now it's a long time ago, but like freights coming from Asia, that was like, or even going to like super cheap. So this is definitely a huge impact. So,
Yes.
uh, what about last week? We had this big incident with one of the largest ships in the world that got stuck in the Suez Canal,
The
causing a
Ever Given.
massive crisis by clogging one of the world's most vital waterways for global commerce. What was the impact? I mean, now the ship is free and clear, but what was the impact of this incident to overall global trade, and how long lasting would this impact be?
If if things were not difficult enough, right, and then this happens. I also want to mention that there is delays on the west coast of Canada. The ports are overwhelmed with rotations of ships trying to get to port, and then of course this happens with this the Ever Given, the name of this ship that got
The
stuck.
ever given,
The
yeah,
Ever Given, right? So it continues to
to give,
give, right?
to
Oh
give,
my God,
yeah.
we are like I think now little incidents like this, if you can call little, happens everywhere, right? And people in the past never heard of it, right? So there was never a big issue because there were so many ships and there was so many containers and there were so many routes in the past that yeah, a ship got stuck. Well, in 2 or 3 days it's going to be freed, whatever, and it will continue its journey. But now the impact is so huge because again, you don't have the same rotations of these steamship lines. Steamship lines merged. There is a lack of containers. So this ship stopping a major canal like the Suez Canal for 5 days, I believe that was what the amount of time that stayed there. So much so that the ships that were going there and start to enter the route diverted and they went south all the way around Africa, right, to come back to the Atlantic because they they couldn't take a chance and stay there and wait for this ship to come out. The estimation is billions of dollars in loss, not only the loss of product not being delivered on time, but also the loss that the lack of the containers that this ship carried, taking it to whatever port, and those containers were already sort of booked, right, to go on another route, that was interrupted. So you can imagine people had product at their factory, had product to be loaded, and there was no ship and there is no container. So that is a huge impact in the global economy. And to add to this, of course, we are in the verge of a strike at the Montreal port again. MELLOHAWK did a campaign with our clients and all our members and whatever. I sit on the board of CIFA, the Canadian International Freight Forwarders Association, which is huge in lobbying in Ottawa about global trade and trade in Canada. And last year, we already had a strike at Port of Montreal that caused billions of dollars of loss to the Canadian economy in the midst of everything else. And now, since the weekend, there has been daily negotiations with the Port of Montreal and the workers there, because they can go on strike any minute. And if Montreal goes on strike, oh my God, of course, we're looking at alternatives with Port of Saint John, as you know, which is a great support of the chamber and the trade with Brazil. Thank God, Port of Saint John is established, is operational, because we are already looking for routes on Port of Saint John because there is no other alternative, right? So it's just one thing after the other. And I hope the Canadian government somehow will interfere on this strike and not last very long, because we are going to suffer as consumers. Canadian business are going to suffer as consumers, and freight forwarders in Canada. My God, I cannot even beginning to tell you, what does it mean not be able to book cargo via Port of Montreal?
Yeah, this is definitely concerning. I mean, if you add one thing after the other, it's just cost over cost over cost. And sometimes who's going to pay for this, right? It's
Yeah.
going to be us who is like purchasing the consumers. Companies are already extremely stretched in terms of revenues and costs. So just add another layer of stress and worrisome, right?
And I encourage everyone that is watching this webinar in Canada to write to their MP, to their local MP. Brazilians are not used to doing this, right? In Brazil, you don't write to your politician because you're never going to hear from them. That's what the story is. But in Canada, if you write to your politician who is in your riding, right, in your neighborhood, you elected them, they are a member of parliament. If you send a letter to a politician in Canada, he must reply to you, okay, on this concern. So I encourage everyone to write a letter to your local MP and tell them to help avoid a strike at Port of Montreal. Because at the end of the day, it's not only freight forwarders or companies in Canada, the final consumer eventually is going to pay the price of this global issues in logistics that are happening. The product is going to arrive here more expensive. At the end of the day, at the shelf of your supermarket, you're going to see eventually this impacting your pockets. So we need to come together as a country, as a community, and speak our voice, right? Speak to say, look, you need to help us. Of course, the government knows about it, but the more disruption, the more awareness we bring to them, it will be better for all of us.
Yeah, definitely the public pressure helps. Like we talked, so the Suez Canal, I mean, we talked a lot about East-West, and we know how much the volume is, but specifically between Brazil and Canada, or Canadian, I mean, Asia's shipments to Canada, there's a lot of coming from the West Coast that we know it's congested and have its own issues, right? But for Brazil, Canada, in terms of ocean, except for the Montreal strike, are there any other like roadblocks that are going on right now that we should worry about? Or
yes, Brazil, we first of all, the market is heated. I mean, we see business, people are quoting, despite the prices and everything else, we see things moving. But Brazil recently, I'm going to say recent, the beginning of the year as well, is having huge difficulties in finding equipment. So steamship lines are taking our bookings. We're, booking everything, organizing, and then we have to go to the port, as you know, Caroline, and pick up the container to take to your client to load the container, right? And then even though you have an appointment and you have the booking, you go to the port and there is no equipment. So we are seeing this now. It's who you know more than what you know. Like, you need to have certain contacts, and it otherwise you get to the port, it's like, sorry, we're gonna have a container in a week for you. And you're going to miss your booking because you won't be able to load that container. So we are seeing that now, product leaving Brazil, it's becoming an issue. And of course, we're going to talk a little later about the services that MELLOHAWK is doing, but we were using this route via Port of Montreal, of course, and Port of Saint John, which has been working amazingly for product coming from South America. Again, we try to avoid product via the US, especially now. Of course, sometimes we cannot because price dictates the route, as you know. So if it's cheaper via New York, and then rail or truck to Canada from Port of New York, then some clients, they prefer that. But every time you touch the US soil, your container can be put for inspection. You can have a week delay, 2 weeks, $1,000 inspection that you have to pay. There is no argument. So the cheap can be very expensive at the end of the day. So we're using direct routes to Canada because Canada is much more flexible. If something goes for inspection, it's 24 hours. As an X-ray inspection, it's cheaper, of course. And with if Montreal port goes on strike, then we only have Port of Saint John to bring these containers into Canada. So
Port of Saint John. Let's support
exactly comes to save, and
always
from Port,
to save.
yeah. And Shannon, our amazing friend at Port Saint John, always does an amazing job keeping everybody informed about the situation there, and they are prepared for this. Of course, they've been prepared for a very long time. And also from Port of Saint John to Toronto, it comes by rail. So when everything works, is like in 24 hours, the container is in Toronto, which is amazing, right? So going back to the Brazil Canada, there is a disruption, and the disruption is not specifically caused by Brazil, but is caused because the world rotation of containers, as we talked about. So it's not Brazil to blame, but it's
the global logistics.
It's global. I mean, it's not one single country that is responsible or one single steamship line. They're all suffering.
Incredible. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about MELLOHAWK then. So you guys have been very creative and effective in helping your clients to navigate through these difficult times and find alternative solutions to move their cargo and navigate the market. Can you go through what those solutions are and how companies can take advantage of all this expertise that you have right now?
Sure, absolutely. So last year, when this pandemic started and Air Canada canceled their flights to Brazil, like no cargo. I don't know if you guys remember, but last year it was like cancel the flights, period. So for I think 2 months or 3 months, there were no flights to Brazil. And then Air Canada started with cargo only. So they took the seats out of the plane and they took cargo on those planes. So fine, it solved a little bit of the problem, but not really. So last year, MELLOHAWK decided to create a consolidation from Brazil to here because a lot of frozen product that you see in Canada that comes from Brazil, all your açaí, all your pão de queijo, all the beautiful products that Brazil have here, I'm going to say that 90% of them come to Canada via MELLOHAWK. Either it was by air or by ocean. So we help a lot of these companies. So last year, when the cancellation of the flight, we started our very first, and I can say this, full blast, because no freight forwarder in Canada has ever created a consolidation for frozen product out of Brazil. What does that mean? It means that we get a container and then several companies will load individual products of minus 18 degrees into this container, and then we can bring 10, 15 companies, one single container to Canada, and then clear them all separate and deliver them. Normally, frozen containers or reefer containers, as they're called, are shipped in the name of one single client. So if you have enough product to fill up a container, yes, you can get your own containers. But if you don't, if you have a pallet or 2 or 3, you're not going to pay for a full container to transport 3 pallets, right? So we created this consolidation to help these companies maintain a flow of product from Brazil to Canada, especially in the frozen product market, which is huge here. Yeah. And it has been a total success. We're Thursday. Monday, we loaded our 4th reefer container from Brazil, and it's on its way here. And we also started on this month our dry consolidation. So we're going to have our own container for dry products. It could be anything. It could be coffee. It could be rice. It could be Havaiana sandals, whatever you want. So, and for a much cheaper price, because if you can wait, of course, I mean, it's going to take 30 days to reach here. If you can wait, and it requires planning, if you're going to do a consolidation shipment via ocean, via containers, you need planning. You can't load the container, expect it to be here in a week, right? It doesn't work. But it has worked so well for the reefer because clients were able to plan their stock and say, every month, I need X amount of product. and they're not paying huge amount of money for the air freight, which is really expensive right now, even on the 2 flights with Air Canada.
Bet, for sure. And now, how many is this the first dry container that you're launching end of April?
Correct.
And what is the deadline?
No, I have the dry container just got loaded as well, and it's coming on the same vessel as the reefer container. So I'm going to have a reefer container and a dry container on. It's going to arrive here at the same time, and then we already have the new booking for the end of April, April 30th. We already have another booking for one full 40-foot reefer and a 40-foot dry, and of course, we're campaigning now, we're advertising, of course, because we know there's a lot of people out there that can benefit from this lower rate. So hopefully the month of April, I don't know, we might need 2 containers reefer and 2 dry containers. You never know how much product is going to come, but we are strong on this campaign because I think people are going to benefit from it.
And how long do you expect this whole air cargo disruption to last, or like this impact to last? Because I mean, again, you mentioned we thought that by now everything would be adjusted, and it's not. I know you don't have a crystal ball, but like, is there any insights that you can share with us in terms of what's like the long term, the medium term, right? Like what's next for?
Yes, you're right. We last year at this time we expected that, you know, at least in 2021 things were going to sort of go back to normal. But Carolina, until Canada opens the doors for foreigners, for visitors, uh, you know what I mean, and everybody's vaccinated, so I don't see this normalizing. I'm sorry, I can say September here, but I don't know until the cases in Canada, as you know, are increasing, which is a shock to me. Like we are on a lockdown since November.
I know.
Right? Since November.
The longest lockdown in America is Toronto, right? Like we've been at home literally for 12 months.
And I don't understand how the numbers continue to increase. I heard today that we had 2,300 cases, which is like, how? If nobody's circulating, there's no malls, there's no restaurants. What's happening with this virus? So I don't know. You know, until Trudeau opens the doors again and the flights normalize, these prices are not going to come down. I don't expect that at all. And also, when you talk about air freight, airlines are going to have to recover what they lost in all this time. Prices are not going to go down what they were in 2019. You had an air freight from Brazil at $1, $1.10 a kilo. It's now over $3 a kilo. So this is really high. For this to go down again, you're going to have 5 flights a week full of passengers. These passengers subsidize this plane, and then you have cargo on these planes. So you can do the math.
Business class and like all that kind of stuff. That's not, because that's the thing. The impact in airlines is not only for cargo, right? Like,
correct.
Are people traveling for a 24-hour meeting? Are people going back and forth the way that they were going before, or are people more used to now do business online? So that's the whole. I mean, we can do a whole webinar of the impact of COVID in the airline industry for cargo and passengers. So any last advice that you can give our audience in terms of procedures, what to do, what to expect, and how to continue moving this cargo back and forth between Brazil and Canada?
Yes, I'm gonna start this advice with a quote that I heard the other day that it says, "We're moving towards an just in case supply chain, not just in time supply chain." So what does that mean? And we heard this last year, and we see it more and more with our clients. People are looking for product manufacturing closer to home. Why? Because if you manufacture everything in China and India and so far away, and you have no ships, you have no capacity, and you have a $9,000 freight bill for a container, well, guess what? You would rather pay $4,000 and bring it from the US, or $2,000 and bring it from here. So people are looking in this planning structure more than ever before. So you need to plan ahead. You need to look your forecast. You need to talk to freight forwarders like us and many others. You need to talk to the chambers of commerce and be on alert what's happening in the world. We saw this disaster at the Suez Canal that is going to affect even more the disruption, right, of supply chain. You need to be aware what's happening in the world before you sign a contract, before you say, I'm going to get my stuff manufactured in China or whatever it is. And, oh, but before it cost me $1,000 to bring a container, well, not anymore. Not. I'm hoping this change very fast, because otherwise our clients are not going to be able to sustain, right, this lane. They're going to have to look somewhere else. So planning is crucial, more than ever before. It's not about the cheap anymore. It's about, can I get my product here? I promise Walmart and Costco and all these companies that I'm going to get the product on time. Well, that's not the case anymore. So you got to be very careful.
Yeah, we can see that, like before, the cost saving production would compensate the cost in transportation, right? So now the cost saving production has to be so massive to be able to compensate. That's not a reality anymore. And I think that more and more people are, it's the whole discussion, globalization versus regionalization, and how this is going to impact global trade in general, and countries, and a country's economies. I mean, it's the butterfly effect, right? Like people stop buying from China, China stop producing, prices go up. It's just a whole. Thank you so much. I don't know if anyone has any questions. I don't see anything on the Q&A, but this is your time to ask any questions you might have for Arnon. He's been doing, I mean, he's one of the biggest experts in Brazil-Canada trade. MELLOHAWK doesn't only do Brazil. MELLOHAWK transports cargo all over the world. They're extremely specialized. Have an amazing team based here in Toronto with partners all over the world. So if you guys need any support and if you need any help, please feel free to connect with Arnon and MELLOHAWK and his team. They will be happy to help. If you do have any cargoes that has to come to Canada anytime soon, please connect with them. There's 2 containers leaving Santos, right, Arnon? They're coming from Santos.
Yeah, we're using Santos because that's the flexibilities, the volumes are there. We have huge support with our partners there. And you never know, maybe we'll do one from the northeast of Brazil. There's a lot of amazing product from the northeast of Brazil coming out as well. So you never know, maybe we'll do one from there.
And you do have a great service from the north through the Caribbean to Port St. John as well, to come like straight. Yeah,
maybe that's the next point of consolidation in Brazil. But Santos has been working really well for our clients. A lot of the manufacturing is there. So if anybody needs help or pricing or consulting, please get a hold of us. I see here a question, but I'm not sure.
It's just a comment.
Oh, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Osman. Thank you so much, Arnon. Thanks for being here today. It's always a pleasure to have this conversation with you. I always miss my shipping times. It's still very near to my heart. And if anyone has any questions, or if you want to move a cargo or understand what is the procedure to take advantage of this new LCL reefer and dry services that MELLOHAWK is offering from Brazil to Canada, please connect with Arnon, please connect with us. We'll make sure to make the introduction. And please consider Port St. John. They're doing, as Arnon said, like an incredible job moving cargo from Latin America into Canada. And there's no congestions. There's the whole St. John free port. So a lot of incredible solutions that they can offer the Brazilian exporters looking to move their cargo here. Thank you so much for your time today, Arnon. It's
Thank you so much. It was early to the point, and it was great, and it's always nice chatting with everybody at the chamber. So thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great week. Stay safe for our friends from Brazil, please, and Canada. Stay safe, stay home, and I'll talk to. Hopefully, we'll see you all in person very soon. Thank you, Arnon. Thanks for being here.
Thanks so much.
Bye.